the only style I really see beating XRB.
And guys, you can now jump in with your opinion as well. Hashtag SCR or hashtag XRB. Who do you think is going to take it? And we are actually going to have Cassidy alongside the Rogue. Will that work with Zuniaki healing them, or will XRB to the moon get everything back online and start getting those crucial wins?
I mean, we know Zuniaki for his priest play and Mystic known for his Ret Paladin play, so they're breaking out some alternate classes to try and counter-comp the expected Lock Shaman Druid. Feral Druids and Assassination Rogues do a ton of damage. They can get really good uptime as well. On the Warlock, Way of the Crane is a good counter to LSD as well, but he gets hexed instantly. Good dispel from Cassidy. This Way of the Crane could be dishing a ton of pain. They make a swap over to Zeepai. The full blind onto Looney. Maybe they're trying to bait a trinket from him. Looney's trying to not fall for the bait, but ultimately has to trinket. He's going to pop the Tree of Life to try and recover from this initial cooldown burst. Vendetta and the Berserk from Cassidy combo together will dish out a ton of damage, and Looney's doing his best to counteract it. The Tree of Life and his artifact. And so far, so good for XRB. This kind of cheeky all-in composition is not catching them off guard whatsoever.
Yeah, so many teams try this double melee set up against XRB to the moon, thinking they can just cleave them down easily, but it almost always backfires, as XRB is usually on point with their offensive CCs as well as their defensive play. Cassidy now forced in position. He doesn't have Trinket. He doesn't have Survival Instincts. He doesn't have anything. He's behind the pillar. This is not the position you want to be in as an Assassination Rogue and a Feral Druid. Like, this is a losing position for them. They basically have to wait for their cooldowns to come back up. Some sort of offensive push. Way the Crane available for Zuniaki as he pushes in to grab some crowd control onto Looney. But if you look, basically everyone from XRB they're sitting pretty. The only one that's kind of a vulnerability is Zeepai, that doesn't have his astral shift for another 30 seconds.
Yeah, what they need to crowd control is the Way of the Crane. They're trying to use Hex to do that, but Cassidy can remove the Hexes, so Walrix has to follow up with Fears. Right now they've secured a Fear on Zuniaki, but it's not a long enough a chain. The Way of the Crane is going to get uptime, and that's a lot of damage going towards Walrix. He's actually dying through Iron Bar currently, which is damage reduction from the Resto Druid. Walrix is now forced to kite away, hanging on by his thread. His Felguard actually went down in that attempt. If they can dip Walrix low like that a couple more times, it may actually be possible for Skillcapped Red to win this. They have the mana lead as well.
Yeah, Walrix being really greedy with that unending resolve. Many Warlocks would have used it in that situation. A lot of pressure coming in from Skillcapped Red. Actually, Vendetta's available for Mystic. If they can get that off without the Iron Bar coming from Looney, they could definitely get a lot of pressure. Axe toss into stun over onto Cassidy. Full Cyclone on Zuniaki. He actually preemptively used his Cocoon, but still Cassidy getting bursted through it. DR Cyclone on Zuniaki. Cassidy activates that second Survival Instinct to keep himself alive, and now Skillcapped Red wants to get aggressive on a Walrix.
And we see a paralysis. Walrix portals away. Cassidy's all over him. Trinket from Walrix. He's got unending resolve. Will he be greedy and not trade it out is the question. He's desperately trying to, but Way of the Crane adds a lot of bonus damage. He's ultimately going to have to trade it out. Mystic is going on a solo mission towards Zeepai to try and force some cooldowns on a split target. Maybe get an Astral Shift or an Iron Bark that will then not be able to be used on Walrix. Walrix is a very open target here. Berserk coming up in 45 seconds. Zuniaki doing a great job avoiding crowd control when he can during that Way of the Crane. Right now we see a stun onto Cassidy as XRB to the moon are trying to develop some pressure. No crowd control on Zuniaki though. He's got the Soothing Mist channeled. It looks like they will easily recover. Zeepai and Walrix though seem to be the ones that are taking the hammering right now. Compositionally, Skillcapped Red are very far ahead in this matchup.
Yeah, his Felguard keeps dying. It's unfortunate for Walrix. Really can't get too aggressive. Needs to focus on resummoning it. Ultimately trinkets, portals, and gets that cast off. So he is going to have a pet available. Kidney Shot now committed over onto Zeepai. Some pressure onto him. And Skillcapped Red, and they've been doing a good job in this game. Zuniaki around 70% mana. Looney not doing so well. Zeepai also getting low, trying to cast out the Ice Sphere and get some counter pressure going. But the split strategy coming in from Skillcapped Red is keeping everyone low.
And Looney doesn't want to trade cooldowns until he sees them, but Berserk has been popped. He's running out of time. He trades out Iron Bark, but he's got 2 targets at low HP with basically 3 DPS members running them down with that Way of the Crane activated. Blind trinketed by Looney. Wants to line that up. He's got Tree of Life going to negate the Berserk, but Tree of Life is really expensive. You can use Regrowth and spam that out as an instant cast, but it's one of your most expensive spells. That's why Looney's just running out of mana at a faster rate. We see a Cyclone attempt landed on Zuniaki. Unfortunately, it was DR'd. Now he's going to get caught into a paralysis. Walrix is caught into a full Kidney Shot with no unending resolve. Zeepai just trying to counter pressure instead of healing him. Walrix is going to portal back behind the pillar. Pressure in favor of Skillcapped Red. Vendetta is ticking towards Walrix. Zuniaki right on top of him as well. If Looney gets caught into an in-cap leg sweep in the next couple 18 seconds or so, they could find a kill. Cassidy needs to survive to that point though. Zuniaki caught into a stun. Way of the Crane going to be activated. This is it. This is the moment. Skillcapped Red have a miracle opportunity here. Shadow Step kick onto the Cyclone. Walrix is completely alone and taking a ton of damage. Zeepai trying to support him, but hanging on by a thread. Looney caught into the leg sweep. They're running out of time. They don't manage to snag the kill. That was their one window, and Walrix hangs on.
I don't know how Walrix survived there. That was actually unbelievable. Looney got kicked into a full incapacity. Walrix just somehow surviving. Zeepine just spamming out heals over and over, and ultimately he will live. Skillcapped Red losing a little bit of that pressure there. On any resolve is going to be available for Walrix right now. Looney still has his Iron Bar too. We are just hitting dampening in this spot. Mystic trying to connect to his target, actually using his Vanish to get a Garrote over on a Looney, putting a little bit of pressure out.
All right, Walrix and Zeepine are actually smartly both playing Dwarf. Dwarf Racial allows them to remove bleed effects, which both Feral Druids and Assassination Rogues focus all of their damage into. So I'm guessing that Walrix used his Stone Form during that last attempt, removed all of the bleeds, and because of that damage reduction he was able to gain from this racial choice, he was able to survive in a moment that he would have otherwise instantly died. He's now on the back foot though with Looney caught into crowd control. This could be unresolved, but Cassidy getting counter pressure at the same time. Zuniaki barely gets the life cocoon out before that critical fear crowd controlled him. Zeepine is now rotting low as well. Looney is running out of mana. We're now just getting into dampening. Zeepine's having a hard time recovering his HP. Cassidy's all over him. Looney's trying to pick up two members of the team. He's forced to use healing touch, gets blinded on the heal. Trinket's right away. Mystic's on top of him. He kidney shots the Trinket. He goes for the Vendetta. Cassidy moves over for a swap as well. Looney's not using Barkskin there. Cassidy finally getting counter pressured away. 19 seconds on that way of the crane. He needs to get behind the pillar and recover. Zeepine knows they need to kill him in this 15-second window. He's going to jump on top of them, but they've all at half HP. Looney's almost tapped on mana. It's going to be one more final push to kill Cassidy, but they're not finding it. They can't hold him down. Way of the crane coming back in 4 seconds, and this next way of the crane can easily close the match.
Yeah, Cassidy has a berserking for that moment as well. Incapacitated on Looney. Walrix gates away right away. Cassidy still on top of him. Light sweep on to Looney. Walrix and Zeepine both getting low. Potentially a double kill coming in here for Skillcapped Red as Walrix gates away. Mame Stun on him. Pressure for both teams. Skillcapped putting out so much damage. They have the poisons on both targets as well as those barrel bleeds as well. So this composition's working out so well for Skillcapped Red.
This is a great blind pick from Skillcapped Red with the incap secured. Walrix will hang on by a thread again. A miracle and staying alive. This is why this team is top of the ladder, even in situations that they're completely counter-comped. They pull off miracles. They stay in the fight. Skillcapped Red, no, they're just going to reset the fight, wait for Way of the Crane, make another push. Walrix still has no ending resolve. They know they've got no Iron Bar. Walrix will be completely exposed. Zeepine's a vulnerable target as well. Mystic needs to get his bleeds running for that extra burst of damage. Cassidy caught into a stun with no trinket. That's the Fel Lord. This is it. Can they take Cassidy down? He's going to dodge out of the Fel Lord. Looney gets stunned on his Tree of Life. That's a double stun from Zuniaki. Way of the Crane is activated. Here's a lot of damage. Zeepine's got Astral Shift though out of the stun. That's going to be an easy trade for him. I would have much rather seen the Vendetta onto Walrix. Maybe they just kill him through it. There's still a lot of damage. Looney with no Iron Bark has Artifact. He's trying to hold on to it. Cassidy getting bursted down at the same time. It could be a cross kill here as both members go on 5%. Zeepine falls first and Cassidy hangs on. And Skillcapped Red are going to just show us a composition that nobody would have expected from them. And they're going to take a win off of the summer qualification or spring qualifications, XRB to the moon. This was such an unexpected turn of events. We were all expecting XRB to the moon to just sweep them under the rug and move forward, but man, this was a good comp. I mean, Way of the Crane, Feral, Assassination, just a ton of dot damage and cleave pressure, and they could outmana the Druid. They had everything in their favor. That was a great comp pick by them.
Yeah, Skillcapped Red, I mean, this is one of the first times we've seen a team pick up one of these double melee comps and actually have it work out against XRB.
I will say as well, though, until the very end there, XRB, it pretty much looked like a recruiting video for Ironforge. Like, Dwarf's just looking so key there. Dwarf's almost enough to just keep them alive through this crazy amounts of pressure. We almost couldn't even figure out how they were staying alive, but beautifully played by Skillcapped Red in the end. Why were they able to do this when we were just talking about Skillcapped Red with this composition? It didn't seem to be enough to take down XRB in the past.
Well, the clever thing about this composition is that when you play against a Crane Monk is very, very strong against Warlocks because of that extra damage, of course, that you give, and the fact that you don't really spend too much mana out healing Warlock damage. But the main thing about it in this particular scenario is that the only thing that Skillcapped Red has to worry about is the fear from Warwicks. Aside from that, there is nothing else really that they need to worry about. Looney's going to be incapacitated into a leg sweep, and Zeepine, he can hex the Crane from Zuniaki, but they can just dispel that with Cassidy, and that's it. It's just the fear, and they have 2 kicks to deal with it. So it's very hard for XRB to CC that Way of the Crane and build up that pressure and actually start sniping them down in the downtime when that Crane is down. So very intelligent pick, and I mean it worked out very well for them here in game number 1.
really excited for this series now. What do you think the chances are that ultimately we just see these comps play out?
I mean,
Not likely.
It's pretty unlikely.
I mean, I feel like a warrior would be a good counter pickup to this. Maybe like a warrior, even though maybe a TSG or a Holy Paladin. Like if we see Looney switch to Holy Paladin, Repentance is super effective against Mistweaver monks, especially a melee cleave Mistweaver monk. So if they get maybe even a Dwarf Holy Paladin into this to heal their Lock and Shaman, he can get aggressive Repentances on the Way of the Crane and extends the crowd control. So you just want to get rid of the Way of the Crane. Repentance would be a good way to do it. Fear is also one, but it's likely to break. Hex can get dispelled, so the only crowd control they have is either get a mage, but they're not known for being a mage team. So I would much rather see Looney switch off Druid onto Paladin.
Okay. Yeah, that could be a big change, right? That does buy them a lot of the time. I feel like there's a very good chance, though, that we see a whole bunch of dwarfs crawling around on the side of XRB.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, the bleeds are just so effective against their team. You have the Feral Druid and the Assassination Rogue. They go on one target, get their bleeds up, and then the Feral Druid can move to someone else. And then the Feral Druid bleeds them up as well. The Rogue can throw over the Poison Dagger, get wound poison on everyone, and all of a sudden you have rot pressure on 2 targets. And Resto Druids are not the best healer to deal with that kind of spread pressure.
So we need to be thinking about that a little bit. It's not very often that we really do talk about what are you playing? Are you playing a dwarf? Things like that. This really has been one of the places where we've seen dwarf shine. I think it has been interesting kind of seeing that picked up. Besides that, most of the time it's like, okay, Blood Elf looks really good here. Okay, Human looks really good here. Just going off of that. But this is one of the times where we really do see that come into play as well. Definitely want to make sure that you are focusing on those little tiny details. They can help you pick up wins. XRB to the Moon had a real shot there because they were able to live through a go that they probably wouldn't have. It was essentially an extra defensive cooldown.
Yeah, I mean, the go that you're talking about is when Warwick's was 100% dead, but he pre-stoneformed off all the bleeds right before he got bashed, and then that gave him enough survivability to actually survive the stun, and then port out, and then the CC ended on Looney, and he managed to survive. But I'm kind of curious about Skillcapped Red's comp choice now, because I really think that, well, there's 2 ways you can approach this. Either you stick with the counter comp until they force you off it, or you can kind of anticipate that XRB probably has an answer for that comp, having Blizzo in their team as well, and then they could just pick default jungle. You don't think XRB has an answer to the Mistweaver?
Well, I mean,
Feral,
this comp is just
Astero?
so obscure that I don't know what would be considered an answer. I mean, I don't know if you've fought against it in the ladder, but yeah, they're going to blind pick the jungle,
Yeah,
and it's
I
on a
like
small
that.
map.
I like that.
It seems like the right play here. Just going straight with the jungle. The thing is what is XRB to the Moon going to do?
Probably play LSD again because it's jungle, but the map is not the greatest.
Yeah, that's the
Could
main
play
thing.
Windwalker DK. I feel like that's the comp that XRB to the Moon needs to prepare for this cup, because that's going to be their answer for Pirates and also a decent answer for jungle. So I'm curious to see if they go with the Lock Shaman. We've seen on this map that when these compositions, if they go with Lock Shaman, go head-to-head in the room, the game ends in like 20 seconds or something. So I don't know. It's kind of risky for XRB to do that.
XRB's Windwalker DK hasn't been bad, but it has definitely left a lot lacking, in my opinion, and when we have seen it. Then what have you thought about their Windwalker DK?
I think they do a good job in the matchups where they can play ultra defensive. We don't normally see them do the all-in strategy, so I think this comp pick makes a lot of sense for me. Like I said, XRB to the Moon normally does pretty good against jungles. The only one they really struggle with is Reformed, and I really think that's because Relza, he goes all in with the Divine Radiance, where he can keep his team alive with a lot of instant cast, give him the globals, 2 offensive dispel, get those Resto Druid hots, and that's how they can win the game in 30, 45 seconds. And I think if Skillcapped Red isn't willing to put on that pressure and take that risk, I think it's going to be difficult for them to win.
Also, Flappers being one of the strongest people, he can actually click the buttons harder, which helps you do quite a bit extra damage.
Allegedly.
Remember,
Allegedly, yeah.
the louder that you click your buttons to and
Also
leave your
burn
mic
through
open.
keyboards faster.
You got to leave your mic open, click as hard as possible. That is how you do maximum damage. It's one of the reasons the Flappers has pulled ahead so convincingly. That's one of the reasons that they are actually the first team to go to BlizzCon. He just clicks harder than everybody else. But XRB to the Moon, this has been a composition that has gotten them through quite a few tough times. This really is the composition that they want to be playing with, and not many jungles have been able to click hard enough against it.
Yeah, I mean, aside from XRB, I don't think, aside from Reform, sorry, I don't think that there has been a jungle that has been able to defeat XRB on this composition. And even Reformed has lost series to XRB playing this LSD. Now, the map, though, isn't the best. I would imagine that the best way for XRB to use the map is to just sit in the room and just use the Fel Lord to kind of zone off the entrance to the room and try to get a Vortex there and that big wombo combo that we see.
Yeah, and not too much of a surprise here that we see Twitch chat siding with the XRB even after that first game. I do think that that's probably the safe pick here as to who's going to win based off of some of the things that we were really saying. Do we expect to see Dwarf again as the race change, even though it's not... obviously, you don't have the Rogue coming in this time, but do you think that that's still the pick for them?
Yeah, I think Dwarf is really solid. I don't think the extra stun from Human is necessarily the best option. It's definitely a option, but I think, well, we'll see Zeepai on Dwarf, obviously, but I think for Warwicks even, it makes a lot of sense to be on that Dwarf because you can tank the stun, you're a Warlock, you're fairly tanky, then when you get out, you can just port away, Stormform, and then you're not going to have those bleeds still chunking you down while Looney is still sitting in that crowd control.
This is about as tanky as you can be as a Warlock, too. I mean, you're going to have SL, the fact that you ultimately are sitting in that way, and then you can use Stoneform as well. You're in a pretty good position. So ultimately, this composition does look good for XRB to the moon, but we talked about the map just a little bit. Subatis, to bring it a step further, what do you actually think of the map pick, though? Because it was their pick here. What do you think that they were trying to accomplish by locking down this map?
I think they were probably going to, like, switch Holy Paladin, maybe even like Holy Paladin melee clear. I don't know exactly. Picking the small map definitely doesn't seem like they were setting themselves up well for a potential Lock Shaman Druid. I feel like the map pick was just wrong from XRB to the moon in general. Like, even if...
It's an important thing to think about, right? And it is important to be critical here, but I think the main thing is, right, you try to get something out of your opponents, but Skillcapped Red does the right thing by going, okay, I see what you're trying to do here. Let's try to be disruptive with our pick. We have the advantage. Or, like you said, it could just be...
Maybe XRB wants them to play jungle.
Yeah,
I mean, that could be
exactly.
Maybe they're like, we're not actually that afraid of their jungle. Maybe they played them.
Let's bait them with the map.
Many times in the past and always done really well against them. So yeah, they could be baiting them with the map choice. And yeah, I think depending on how this match goes, we can sort of tell what XRB was thinking.
I think I'm gonna side with Ven on that. I think they picked a small map. And they said, okay, pick your bleed cleave again. We'll pick Windwalker DK, or we'll pick something else with Blizzo. And Skillcapped Red was like, okay, we're going to pick your jungle because of this small map. Jungle is really good on this map. And XRB was like, okay, cool.
Bleed cleave just sounds disgusting. That should be a banned phrase in Twitch. You should actually be in a 600-second timeout right now. Bleed cleave. But ultimately, I think this is one of the awesome things with the tournament format from this year. When you start to get to these positions where it's like, okay, well, we know that because of the history, they're probably not that scared of the jungle. Is this a map pick to actually bait that out? I think that's some of the logic that we're starting to get that's actually next level, that's actually super high level, that's been cool about seeing these tournaments from week in and week out. I mean, what? I'm going to try to do math again. I apologize. But we've seen 6 and 5. This is 5, so 11. And then a LAN. We've already seen 11 tournaments in a LAN. That's 20.
You had it up there.
It was like 20. We've seen like over 20 days of World of Warcraft this year.
Yep.
It's
a little bit more.
It's a little more.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said over.
Yeah.
But we've seen over. We used to not.
24 to be exact.
No, well, you can't count tomorrow. You can't count tomorrow. That's the thing. You can't count tomorrow.
23.
And the LAN was more than 2 days.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
It was 2 days. So it's 23. It's 23 days. See, there were factors that I didn't want to contribute because
there's one factor. We haven't played tomorrow yet.
Rich math. Okay, but the thing is, ultimately, I think we've seen more WoW this year than we saw like in the past 2 years almost in tournaments. Like, it really has been crazy because you used to do the 5 cups per region, so that's 10, which would be 20 days of play. All right, never mind. But we've definitely seen more WoW this year than ever before, and we're only at the halfway mark, right? We still have another LAN to come up. Then we have a full other season, which is going to be 6 weeks long. Then we have opening week in BlizzCon. So it's actually crazy how much WoW that we have already seen. And also on top of that, the other thing that changed when we've all first started casting together was before Zico was even casting. I was barely even casting at the time. We basically saw if a team got that top qualification, they didn't compete after that. It was like, okay, you got first place, cool, we'll see you later, we'll see when we actually get to LAN season, and then you can try to qualify for BlizzCon. And that changed the tournament so much because you don't get the same track records, the same team versus team matchups, see the same compositions. It changed just about everything.
Well, I think it also just makes it more difficult for the other teams. If a team that wins, theoretically, they're the toughest team in the tournament, all of a sudden they don't have to compete anymore. It just makes the tournaments easier in general, and that's one of the reasons this year is so hard in particular, because you have to be consistent through all of the cups as the game is constantly evolving. That's where you see these teams like Method Black, like Method Orange, that have sort of adapted and evolved throughout the year. It's really just take down tournament after tournament.
I think it's also made everyone better, right? I mean, you have more reps, you have to be wargaming a lot more, so that's going to change things. It changes the meta. It just changes pretty much your entire outlook.
You can't take a few weeks off. If you take a few weeks off, all of a sudden all these teams are learning and advancing and you're not growing, so it becomes really, really hard. Like you said, you kind of fall out of the meta, you don't know exactly what strategies you need to implement. If someone comes up with a counter for your composition and you don't realize it, that's just a loss in the tournament.
And also back then, it was actually 3 cups, right? Was it back like before pre-Legion?
Math again.
No, like pre-Legion though. I think it was 3 cups automatically qualified, then went to LAN, qualified at LAN for BlizzCon. I think was how it worked. I think it was 3, not 5.
Okay.
And then it was 5 the year after that.
Okay.
I remember. That's when we became friends. It was an important time for
one thing's for sure.
Friends is
if we're talking about if we're talking about memory and numbers, I definitely am just gonna go with you 100%, Rich.
Thank you for trusting me, Ven Ricky. You know what else we can trust? That these teams are going to put it all on the line right now. Elimination match, losing team no longer in this tournament. Both of these guys sit in a relatively good position to be grabbing that spot to the LAN as well. It starts here. Who is going to take the victory?
Yeah, Skillcapped Red might pop an ollie on that skateboard ramp and lead this series 2-0. XRB to the Moon are going to have a lot of damage thrown at them, and let's see if they can survive.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if they can, and depending on how this match plays out, maybe I was right. Maybe XRB to the Moon was baiting Skillcapped Red onto this jungle right away. Adam Rex is going to be charging in, looking for that initial crowd control. You can see XRB to the Moon, they're just going to be camping out this room. Triple bursting shot, axe toss over onto Adam Rex. He trinkets out, gets the full Wyvern Sting. Zeepai's caught into the stuns, he can't dispel it. A lot of pressure going to be going out onto Zeepai right now. Astral Shift going to be used as he tries to kite away, but still, the CC's not over. Zeepai getting lower as Adam Rex and Cassidy look to close out this game.
Ulrich is not playing Portal, he's playing Mortal Coil. It's going to be an all-in strategy from both teams. If they go after Walrix, realizing he's got no Portal, he's completely vulnerable. Right now, they're not doing it. They're just trying to go down Zeepai, but it's not really getting anything done. Zuniaki caught into a full fear, no trigger in 10 seconds. Cassidy activates Survival Instincts. He's getting Earthquake stunned. Adam Rex now caught into an axe toss. Zuniaki into another fear. Good crowd control from Walrix. His offensive play this game is immaculate. It's really putting Skillcapped Red behind, but in the meantime, Looney burned down his Iron Bark. He's burned down the Astral Shift as well. Looney caught into a bursting shot, now into a full trap, but Cassidy is dipping low. Zuniaki activates the Rapture, but if the Purges come in, he could easily just fall. He's hanging on 20%. Pain Suppression has to be traded out as both teams race to this finale. There's no cooldowns left on either side, but a triple cap totem secured by Zeepai. Adam Rex and Cassidy are getting bursted down, and Zuniaki's got nothing left. The Mortal Coil could be enough crowd control to secure a win into the fear, and Walrix with A-game offense was able to turn this match in favor for his team. MVP.
This is why XRB to the Moon was potentially trying to bait this composition. I think they have a lot of practice against it, and if you do remember, not so long ago, the same way that we talk about Outlaw Rogues right now, we were talking about this composition, and going back to how tournaments have changed, one king cannot reign forever. If one composition does really start to pull ahead in the meta, all of a sudden the players will respond. They will find answers. They will find the right strategies. They will find winning compositions. And XRB to the Moon, they already cracked how they beat this comp. They wanted to see it, and Zico, I think they got exactly what they were looking for.
Absolutely, and I mean, it comes down to some inexperience as well on Skillcapped Red's side, because I don't think they're used to playing this hyper-aggressive style where it's literally a 1-minute game. I think when we saw Reform play out this matchup, it was largely because of Relza playing Ultimate Radiance, playing super aggressive, just shoving every offensive cooldown, every defense, everything they have right away. And in this matchup, we saw Adam Rex sitting a stun a little bit, trinketing out late, being a little bit cautious. This is the matchup. This is how we described it last time, and that's how it still is. So both teams need to go in there and press all of their buttons, and then the jungle should come out on top. But The jungle needs to play really well, and it's hard as well when Warwick is just putting on a show, honestly, fearing Zuniaki, stunning Cassidy, stunning Adam Rex at the same time, literally controlling 3 players at the same time. You know, Warwick's had a phenomenal game.
Folks, we're going to be jumping to a quick break right now. It is all tied up 1-1. If you want to be contemplating the matchup at home right now, just expert it. Just keep doing this in front of your computer screen until we get back, and you'll know exactly what we're in store for 1-1 when we return. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You can see that we were not prepared for that one. Skillcapped Red versus the XRB to the moon, guys. All tied up. You can talk about us all you want, but are these teams prepared? Because this matchup is very important as to who is actually going to make it to the land. These are two of those bubble teams. And now, Skillcapped Red, we're going to have Zuniaki back on how he started this series with the Monk, and Mystic also going to be coming in on the Rogue. This composition was able to net them their first win. Subitees, do you expect it to do it again?
I mean, it was definitely close. I mean, right at the end, Cassie was at 5%. If Bark stayed alive, I don't know what you're trying to talk code with your eyes with Zico there.
Zico and I actually have like so many codes now because
it's because of the corner.
Yeah, a little bit of insight. So during the match, Zico and I are basically talking with our eyeballs as to what we're going to talk about when we get out. And that was actually our code talking about dwarves. That was what we were doing with our eyebrows here. But you don't need any decoder for what's about to happen. It's all gonna unfold in front of you with the smooth stylings of Supatis and Venruki. Open the gates!
All right, there, Rich, jump down a little bit. Everybody at home, get hyped, get ready. This is a lower bracket elimination match. Both these teams are very close on points to qualify. Both these teams need a first place finish to actually make it. So far, Skillcapped Red have used this composition, Feral Druid, Assassination Rogue, and Mistweaver Monk to try and counteract the main setup from XRB to the moon. Will this large map allow XRB to kite out and dampen their opponents, or will Zuniaki get in their face, immediately leading the charge with a leg sweep? No damage really pulled just yet, though, so that crowd control has basically been wasted.
Yeah, Mystic and Cassidy just looking to build up their damage, putting their bleeds on multiple targets. There's a full Hex on to Zuniaki. Cassidy caught into the stun lock. That's going to be Cocoon coming in from Zuniaki as he gets caught into the full Cyclone. Cassidy using survival instincts as well. Sort of tanks out some of this damage coming in from that Fell Lord of Walrick. Throat Silence now onto Looney as Walrick and Zeepy start rotting down just a little bit, but not the same pressure we saw in game number 1.
Yeah, now Berserk has been popped. Let's see if Looney's going to go into Tree of Life. He gets Paralysis away. Zeepy the primary target for now, but Cassidy and Mystic are really feeling the pain right now. Zuniaki trying to pick them up with that revival. Somebody in Shadaloon to try and heal his team back up. Nice recovery, but they're stacked up behind the pillar. XRB to the moon, triangle position, trying to pincer them behind the pillar. Mystic trinketing out, going for a kidney shot. Vendetta trying to pull more trinkets with a leg sweep onto Looney. Walrick's trying to play it patient and cool. He's going to portal out of line of sight. He's right on top of his gateway if he needs to make a getaway. Defensive fears on the Cassidy. Looney is no longer crowd controlled. Defensively, XRB to the moon are looking way better than in game number 1.
Yeah, Zuniaki actually trinketed out a stun into a full fear. That was nicely done by Walrix, and that's how they're able to get some of this pressure right now. But Zuniaki, with the Way of the Crane, is going to be able to easily top off his team. When Way of the Crane is activated, it's going to be up to XRB to CC Zuniaki, or they're not really going to be able to put out too much pressure. Full blind now committed over on the Looney. Mystic not going to be able to get the follow-up stat, so Looney's going to be able to sit that full blind out of that crowd control. Hopefully top off his team. Ironbark's still not going to be available as Walrick and Zeepy hover around 50% HP.
Good pressure on Walrick and Zeepy. They're really just trying to run Looney out of mana, but it's quite even in terms of mana, as I expect this game to go into dampening. Also, with the damage over time effects, they can target down Walrick's pet quite easily by just dotting it up and letting it rot, and Looney has to spend even more mana to heal basically an extra target on his team. So compositionally, Skillcapped Red should have the advantage here. Let's see if they can execute. We see Way of the Crane. How are they going to control this? Zuniaki really adding a lot of damage and immediate healing to his team. It doesn't look like they can land a Cyclone. Looney tries to sneak that in. Unfortunately, it was diminishing returns, so Zuniaki still leading the charge. Really not getting any defensives, though, with that Way of the Crane. It was almost just to recover his team. Zuniaki trying to chain crowd control out of it now with a leg sweep. Zeepy the primary target. He needs to be careful. Doesn't want to throw away the game. He trinkets. He trades out Astral Shift, but they're still on top of him. He jumps back to safety. Looney's no longer crowd controlled. He's trying to pick him up with a quick swift man. Cassidy now ducking behind the pillar, caught into an axe toss and trying to play it greedy, as he did get behind the pillar before getting stunned. He manages to be greedy. That's going to allow him to use his trinket aggressively later on and maybe just take Zeepy out.
Yeah, Skillcapped really implementing that hit and run strategy. Whenever Way of the Crane is active, they're able to get aggressive. Walrick's pet's actually been killed off. Cassidy wants to get aggressive in the situation. Incapacitate over on the Looney. Looney's mana's not doing that great either. Walrick does get his pet out at the expense of his trinket, so that's not going to be there for him. Full fear now over onto Zuniaki, but Mystic and Cassidy are going to be sitting pretty at this time. Zeepy casts out the Ice Sphere, looking for some pressure. Manages to find some damage on the Cassidy, but like we said, Zuniaki, he almost has a Life Cocoon, he has a Revival, he has a Way of the Crane. His team should be fine.
Yeah, and he's on Fear DR if he wants to activate the Way of the Crane. It's a bit surprising to not see him do it yet. Maybe he just wants crowd control, and he knows that he wants to try and kill Zeepy with this next attempt. If they get a trinket on Paralysis, they can blind him full later, but they're really not having enough damage just yet. Way of the Crane can be activated. He's going to attack Looney a bit, try and punch him, force him to put hots on himself and spend more mana. With a well-timed innervate, though, Looney's got free casted heals. That's going to allow him hot his whole team. Fell Lord available. Walrick is looking to try and turn this fight around. Are they going to unleash the Fell Lord? They stun up Zuniaki. They drop the Fell Lord onto 2 members. Zuniaki immediately trinkets, activates the Revival. It's going to pick up his whole team. He ducks behind the pillar. Good reaction from Zuniaki to survive the attack of Walrick.
Yeah, very nicely done to keep them alive. Kidney shot now committed over onto Zeepy. He's going to be taking a little bit of pressure. Like I said, Skillcapped Red, they're not able to find that same amount of damage we saw in game number 1. And now Cassidy gets bursted down. Survival Instinct's going to be traded out by him on that Valkule's consumption. Nice defensive Cyclone coming in from Looney as well. Zuniaki rots down. Way of the Crane shortly going to be available. He gets feared on it. Hops away the Crane, gets feared immediately. Gets out of the fear. Unfortunately, that breaks. Cassidy, though, still taking so much damage. Just line of sighting, finally going to be charging in, trying to get some pressure now over onto Z5. Fear on the way to Crane once again, but Zuniaki should be able to stabilize his team. A lot of burst damage coming in from XRB. Z5 is going to be charging in. He does not want Zuniaki to get a full reset.
They had to defensively blind Walrix. That's going to put Skillcapped Red heavily behind. At this point, they're relying solely on mana, but that's if they can even recover with the entire team below 50%. They are on the run. Looney blinking in, aggressively going for the bash to secure the game. He's trying to fake cast a skull bash. He gets stunned up to deny it. Everyone rotting down. Cloak of Shadows. Mystic will survive. Cassidy trades out survival instincts. He'll survive 2 more seconds. Zuniaki needs to get this way of the Crane. If he gets crowd controlled on this, they will easily go down, but he doesn't. He gets the heals connected right before a Cyclone landed, topping his team off and buying them more time to carry this fight out. But defensively, Cassidy and Mystic are running on fumes. They still have Zuniaki locked down. They switch the clone to Cassidy. They hex up Zuniaki. Great cross crowd control from XRB. Mystic down on half, and they're going to be forced to run away here shortly, and if they don't, it's going to be a risky move.
Yeah, they're going to fall further and further behind. Zuniaki, you know what, the Crane, 20 seconds. Walrick and Z5 doing a good job playing aggressive. Walrick's pet dies off. Unfortunately for him, he's going to have to pour it away, make sure that he can get that pet back up, but it's not going to be contested whatsoever. Looney, I like to see him play a little bit more aggressive in this matchup as well. It's good for him to charge in, get that bash. Cassidy now getting out the full Cyclone onto Zuniaki. I think that is going to be it. XRB cleaning up their gameplay completely. This did not look like the same counter comp we saw in game number 1.
You know, it's been one of those things that we've seen quite a few times, maybe getting a little bit caught off guard for a composition once some of these top teams, but then they go, okay, look, you're trying something new, and we've been doing this all year long. Keep queuing it and watch what happens. And ultimately, that's what XRB does here. They managed to bait a composition they already knew that they were going to be able to beat. At this point, Skillcapped Red needs to do something bigger. They're just going to get absolutely cleaned up. XRB to the moon, starting to run the clinic.
I'm not sure why Skillcapped Red picked Ashamane's ball. It's such a weird pick. They're a melee cleave. They want to have uptime on Warwick. Warwick can gate from one side to the other, port away behind pillars. He has free reign on a map like this. And I mean, even Looney has a really easy time positioning and even pushing in for those Cyclones at the end, managing to force out Zuniaki's Trinket with one of them, and also securing the kill right here at the end with another one of them. So I mean, I feel like the map definitely plays a big role here, but this was also the swing match, which means that even if XRB loses the next game, in game number 5, XRB gets to select the map and the compositions.
Hey, look, this map is advantage. Yeah, this map's incredible. That map is absolutely incredible for Warlock. I even drop gateways on that map. Think about that. Even I do, and I don't click buttons that don't do damage. We've talked about it quite a few times.
That's why
everyone is just free casting when you play with Rich.
Why? Yeah,
never kicks.
Why not? Why not? I'm doing the most damage. Look at the meters. But the thing is ultimately the amount of mobility that you actually do get out of a Warlock there, and I bring up the gateway for a reason. You can see just hopping from pillar to pillar, and Walrix is one of the best Warlocks in the entire world, especially if you catch him on Demonology. That's been the spec that he has really just destroyed the entire world on. Most of the other Warlocks that are in the conversation, a lot of the times when we do talk about it, are not even really playing Demonology as much, right? Who else are you going to talk about? Chan? Yep. Chan is a completely different Warlock than what we see coming out from Walrix, and that's one of the reasons it is so interesting to kind of talk about Warlocks, because we have those Destro locks. Yeah, sure. Okay. Kind of impressive maybe sometimes. But then you have Walrix just being perfect on Demonology, and then you give him an advantage? That is not something that you want to be doing.
Well, it's just so weird because XRB has been running this composition since Cup 1 way back, and they're basically the only team who has been running this setup. When I talk to some of the NA teams and I'm like, why don't you guys run this? They're like, well, it's not that good of a comp against most things. So that really speaks volumes to XRB and how well they do play this composition.
I do agree, right? I mean, honestly, the composition, Dalaran Sewers is going to be the map pick, and we'll dive into that in a second here, but it's honestly one of the reasons that they are probably being held back, right? It's not a super meta composition. It's funny because it's the same thing that we saw last year too. It's basically what happened. They got stuck in a bad place. One thing beat their composition. It wasn't super meta, but they are the best team in the world at it for sure, and they're pretty much one of the best teams in the world at playing the dampening style as well. Just seeing Looney time in and time out being absolutely perfect, seeing Walrix and Z-Pie being able to match that greed, and when they bring Blizzo in, it just kind of proves that even more. Blizzo just being the best peeler in the world. I mean, the thing is this composition, yes, not that many people have played it. Not most of the Warlocks are even playing Demonology anymore. A lot of compositions have started to shut it down, but it looks like they have a pretty good play style against Skillcapped Red. Do you think Dalaran Sewers is going to be helping out Skillcapped Red here?
I don't know why they didn't pick this in the last game and then have the match point be in their favor to go to a small map. Now, having lost that swing match, Tolvaron is ultimately, I think, our final destination, and I don't think that Skillcapped Red are going to do too well on Tolvaron if they manage to even make it past this point.
Yeah, I'm not convinced they will. I think XRB cleaned up their gameplay quite a bit, made sure they didn't fall behind, overuse cooldowns, Looney didn't run out of mana nearly as fast, and they made sure their offensive pressure was a lot better. And, you know, when you fight a new comp, sometimes it can be hard to know when to pick your moments, and it seemed like they knew those moments a lot better just 2 games into a matchup like this.
They got a feel for it. They found the play style of the other team, and then they say, okay, this is when we go big. This is when we downuse. This is when we're going to try to get that damage going. Will it be the same thing here on Dalaran Sewers? This can be the map to decide it if Skillcapped Red falls off here. Zuniaki, Cassidy, Mystic will not be going to land. XRB just needs to close it out here to keep themselves valid. Let's get these gates open and see the results.
Yeah, Looney getting aggressive with Cyclones is definitely key, as Zico pointed out. It got the trinket and got the kill. So if Looney can sneak in these Cyclones, he definitely win the game. What I'd like to see Skillcapped Red do is go after Looney and attack him if he's going for these Cyclones. He could definitely fall over. He opted to not go Tree of Life, realizing that it ran him out of mana and he didn't really need it. So without Tree of Life, he could be an open target to train down. I really hope that Skillcapped Red change up their targeting moving forward if they want to win this.
Yeah, I think it could be a strategy. It could also backfire, though. Walrus and Zeephi known to put a lot of pressure on that Elemental Shaman and Demonology Warlock. Skillcapped Red going to be getting aggressive on a Walrus very early on. No split strategy right away. Looks like most of the pressure is going out onto Walrus. It didn't work out for them last time, but maybe in this game with a little bit more focused damage, they could ultimately take Walrus down. All
right, that was the way of the crane from Zuniaki, but he had to roll away from getting crowd controlled, and it looks like they could go after Looney a bit. It's in bear form, he's ready for it. They're not going to commit. Zeephi still the primary target. Cassidy waiting to pull the trigger on that Berserk. Ironbark from Looney will deny some of the damage, but now they swap over to Walrix. They could immediately pull an unending resolve with this amount of damage. Walrix is trying to play it greedy. He ports, he gates. Looney's sitting through crowd control and manages to connect the Swiftmen to save Walrix. Zeephi now down 50%, but Mystic is forced to run away, and Way of the Crane is still 13 seconds away, and 13 seconds doesn't sound like a long time, but with Zeephi and Walrix dishing out a ton of damage, it's definitely quite a ways. 5 seconds away from it. Mystic is trinketed. They need to get something done with it, but now Zuniaki gets feared. Cassidy's going to fall behind. That's going to get a survival instinct from him. This Way of the Crane, I would love to see a swap, but it looks like they're going to go after Walrix instead. He's going to trinket. He ports behind the pillar. Cassidy's now stuck in midfield. Zuniaki activates Way of the Crane to try and pick him back up. He needs to connect with this. He's going after Zeephi actually in a bit of a swap, and Zeephi's playing it greedy. Activates the stone form, takes all the bleeds off of himself, but he's still low on health. He gets kicked on the healing surge. Looney is struggling to heal. He's trying to be greedy, and these are the greedy plays that Looney makes. If you're not committing a cooldown, he's not going to either, and he just maths it out and manages to hang on by a thread. That's going to put them quite a bit ahead.
Yeah, Looney not opting to trinket the blind once again. Mystic not going to have the follow-up sap. Now a lot of damage being committed over onto Walrus, incapacitate onto Looney as Walrus is forced to use that unending resolve, and I think that's one of the greedy plays that ultimately didn't pay off. So much better to just have your trinket line up with the blind. Now Walrus, no unending resolve, 3-minute timer. I think that's very unfortunate for XRB to the moon, but ultimately a decision they're going to have to live with. A little bit of pressure now over on the Cassidy, and Zuniaki's going to be activating that Way of the Crane. Still good burst pressure onto Walrus as Looney's caught into the full leg sweep. Valkyle's consumption going to be cashed out onto Cassidy. So much damage, and just one clean setup from XRB closes out the game, and that is what makes them so threatening. They have Zeephi on the Elemental Shaman, Walrus on the Demonology Warlock, and when they get that burst off,